An explosive gun battle in Los Angeles tonight may have blown the Symbionese Liberation Army apart. You'll see it on dramatic tape and film in a special expanded Eyewitness News.
The key question still being asked tonight is, was Patty Hearst in that house tonight? We'll pursue that story and trace the incredible string of events leading up to tonight's showdown in Compton.
Tonight, we'll have eyewitness accounts from our reporters who are on the scene. Christine Lund, Larry Carroll, Chuck Henry, Bob Banfield, and Henry Alfaro. Next, on Eyewitness News.
Start today off bright and new. Let a smile come shining through. Sing a happy song as you ride along. There's nothing gonna bother you. 'Cause good things happen on a Honda. Good things happen on a Honda. Let them happen to you. Let them happen to you. Let them happen to you.
Everything you've heard about us Miami girls is true. We're always on the move. I'm Judy, and I was born to fly. Fly me to Houston. National has non-stop DC-10s every day. Or fly me to New Orleans on the only DC-10s. You can fly me morning, afternoon, or night. Just say when. I'm Judy, and I was born to fly. Fly me.
Fly Judy. Fly National. Two tapes from two different discount low-price markets. Alpha Beta, another chain. These represent the same items purchased on the same day. 40 items were available at both markets. Now, we didn't make up the list. A shopper did. She picked every item herself. The items circled on this tape show where the other market was cheaper. 11 items. Alpha Beta was cheaper on 20 items. You'll like the total better at Alpha Beta.
Paul Newman stars, 11:30 tomorrow night. This is Channel 7's Eyewitness News with Judd Hambrick, John Schubeck, and the Eyewitness News team.
Good evening. I'm Judd Hambrick. Here's what's happening at 11 o'clock. The gunfire has stopped and the flames are out, but a big question mark still hangs over south central Los Angeles at this very moment. A question as large and perhaps as tragic as any on the West Coast in the last 103 days. Is the body of Patty Hearst among the 5 found early tonight in a shot-up, burned-out home on 54th and Compton Avenues? A home that went up in unchecked flames as the climax of a shootout in which Los Angeles police fired more ammunition than they ever had fired before in a single law enforcement assault. Just who are the 5 persons killed? That still is not known. If any of them have been identified, it's not been officially disclosed. At Hillsborough, California, the Randolph Hearst family has apparently given in to the inevitable fear. A family spokesman said tonight that the feeling inside the Hearst home is that it's all over for Patty. Yet despite that atmosphere, the family spokesman added that the Hearsts still are clinging to some hope that their daughter was somewhere else, not in a stucco house at Compton and 54th Avenue here in Los Angeles. John, you have more.
Judd, we certainly do. We still have nothing official at this hour to say with certainty that the 5 persons who died in that shootout were actually members of the Symbionese Liberation Army. Dr. Thomas Noguchi is even now trying to identify the bodies, some of which were burned beyond recognition. But all night long there has been rumor and speculation about the names of the victims in that house. Among those believed slain on East 54th Street were the escaped convict Donald DeFries, known as Marshal Sin Q of the Symbionese Liberation Army. It was Sin Q whose voice, along with Patty Hearst, appeared on those recordings sent to the publisher Randolph Hearst. Also, Nancy Ling Perry, a former college cheerleader who once campaigned for Barry Goldwater and also worked for a time as a topless blackjack dealer. Kamala Hall, daughter of a Lutheran minister who once was involved in a career as a social worker in Minneapolis, and until she joined the SLA was known by her friends as an advocate of nonviolence. William Lawton Wolfe, son of a Pennsylvania doctor and dropout from the University of California in Berkeley. But we must emphasize all this is speculation, not based on anything official. 3 of the bodies were found underneath the floor of the burned-out house near air vents leading to the outside. Dr. Thomas Noguchi held a news conference a short while ago. We hope to have film of that news conference later on in this program. In the news conference, Noguchi says it'll be 24 hours before the identifications are complete. Larry Carroll was among the dozen members or so of our news team that spent the good part of the day at the scene of this shootout. Reporters, film cameramen, soundmen, and film couriers who faced the tension and the danger, and there was danger, believe me. Here's Larry with the first in a series of reports on what happened down there tonight. Larry?
Here's the way it started, John. Late this afternoon, Los Angeles news media were notified by police that the police might have a raid somewhere in South Los Angeles and that a command post was being set up. We rushed to the area. The exact location of the target house was not known at that point, but shortly after 5 o'clock, massive numbers of police moved in and cordoned off an 8-square-block area, bordered by Long Beach Boulevard on the east and Hooper on the west from 57th Street south 4 blocks. I was standing about 100 yards away when police found their target, a yellow one-story house on 54th near Compton. A live CBS camera crew was on the scene, and this is what it looked like.
Billy, let's see if we couldn't still get this picture, but from a little better location, huh?
Well, I don't know if it's a good idea to interview somebody right now.
Well, that's a mighty thin palm tree right in front of us.
We just took a bullet a couple inches or so because we felt it go by. We felt it go by, that's for... and heard it. And heard it. And that's as close as I want to be to one, let me tell you.
It was about then that a lone black woman came stumbling from the front of the house, her hands bound behind her, gasping from the tear gas. The woman shouted at the attacking police that she was giving up and that she had been held hostage. Officers rushed into the crossfire and pulled her bodily out of the danger area. Under intense questioning, she told police that there were 4 more heavily armed people inside, and all the while the battle continued. A short time later, no one really knew why, fire was spotted coming from the house.
It appears to have spread to the adjacent house.
It does.
It is just unbelievable that there could be anybody in there shooting back. We were told earlier in the afternoon that there was a basement in that house. And perhaps the people who were being sought were in that basement. If so, that would give them a few more minutes to stay alive and fire back at the police.
Oh, boy.
But not much more than that. Look at the huge ball of smoke and flame going up out of here now. Right, Bob.
Several companies of the Los Angeles Fire Department were poised at both the north and south ends of the battle zone, but police would not allow them near the blaze because in spite of the inferno, firing from the house continued. Much of it organized, some of it the explosions caused by round upon round of ammunition igniting in that intense heat. Huge clouds of dense black smoke blew eastward from the house and could be seen for miles. The flames destroyed the target house and heavily damaged 2 others. It was a full hour later, after the firefight began, that firemen were finally allowed in the area. Luckily, they were able to extinguish the flames quickly before the blaze spread further. But suddenly, in the space of slightly more than an hour, what had been a relatively quiet neighborhood had become a battleground, and then a scene of total desolation. The experience of watching the Holocaust in progress was more shocking, more terrifying than anything I have ever experienced. I crouched on the floor of a corner grocery store about 100 yards from the bombardment for more than half an hour with about 15 men, women, and children, all part confused, part excited, and all of them scared enough not to want to leave that floor. And when it was over, everyone seemed to know what had just happened to them, but it'll be a while before any of us really knows what it all really meant. Judd?
Thanks, Larry. Christine Lund was also in the thick of things throughout the afternoon. Here is her report, including how she walked into the eye of the storm without realizing exactly what kind of dangerous situation she was in. Christine?
Judd, it did start out that way. I realize now, and I realized rather recently, that something unique did happen the moment that I did arrive on the scene this afternoon. I walked up to the house almost immediately that you just saw burned to the ground, presumably with 5 SLA members inside. When I got there, a little girl, and she wasn't more than 5 years old, walked up to me and she said, "I live in that house, the yellow house you saw burned, with my mother, and there are 5 people inside who I don't know, and they've all got guns." I walked up to that house. First I talked with some of the neighbors. They said that they hadn't seen any kind of unusual activity. I knocked on the door of that yellow house, and a woman came out, a black woman. She seemed dazed, quite dazed. She refused to acknowledge that that little girl was her own, and she refused to acknowledge that there were any strangers or anything unusual going on inside. But several hours later, of course, that house had burned to the ground, and with perhaps 5 SLA members dead inside after the most dramatic gun battle in Los Angeles history, they're saying tonight. But first, police attention was focused on an abandoned apartment building half a block away with the 2 vans, a red VW bus, and the blue Chevrolet van that the SLA had been seen in yesterday. Just before the LAPD SWAT squad searched the building, I walked up to the apartment they were watching and knocked. The door was unlocked. I had it just cracked and heard some movement inside, but then the massive gunfire exploded a half a block away from that house. When that gun battle erupted, we moved down the street. There were sharpshooters and FBI. They raced to positions just around the corner from the house, about 100 feet away. The air shook with gunfire, and police realized what they were up against.
Woman walking. Come here, lady, get out of there!
Chicago, 40 David, let's listen up, because we're going to need your assistance. Now, we need all the gas that you can round up from Parker Center or any geographical division, and we need it down here, Coat 3, as fast as you can get it down. In addition to that, we need all the ammo that we've got in the safe. We're taking automatic fire front and back from this location. They're much better armed than we are.
Police, right along with reporters and with stunned bystanders, tried to figure out exactly where the crossfire was. People I saw crouched behind cars and fences and telephones, not knowing if they were out of the line of fire or not. Gunfire was so massive, it was absolutely impossible to tell if you were safe or not. Then police went to tear gas bombs. They made a direct hit into the window of the house with one lob, but somebody inside got it right away and pitched it back outside immediately. And then suddenly, the black woman inside stumbled out of the house and she slumped on a porch briefly. Tear gas choked the air. It made it impossible to breathe or even to see for a while. But then police moved in. I saw them walk up. They grabbed the woman, handcuffed her, dragged her 40 feet to a squad car. Police at the time had no idea whether she was an SLA captive or an SLA member. Just before reporters were routed out, I got up close and I saw that she was swollen from the tear gas and unrecognizable and bleeding heavily from the nose. And I heard her say that she had been held unwillingly inside by the SLA, and she was thrown to the ground and questioned by police.
Is it a man, woman? Are they white? Are they white people? Back up. Let him talk. Are they white people? Back up. Are they white people?
And then suddenly the SLA house belched smoke and then flames spewed out into the street. It looked like an explosion of fire. The woman looked up out of the back seat of the squad car where she was under intensive questioning to see it, perhaps. There was a tremendous amount of apparent gunfire at this time, and it's possible at this point that the flames themselves were setting off the tremendous amounts of ammunition that the SLA had stockpiled inside the house, and in a way it was a bizarre thing to see, a fire of this intensity with people inside the burning house with no one attempting to fight it. Whether everyone stood around speculating whether the SLA at this point might possibly consider surrendering when there seemed no hope at all of their winning a gun battle with police that numbered more than 350 at this point. A few moments later, in a house immediately next to this, we will perhaps and perhaps not see film of 6 children, I think all of them were under 7 years old, being rescued from that house. They all came stumbling out onto the sidewalk with a woman who apparently was their mother. No one knew what their connection might possibly have been with that house, and everyone had thought perhaps those houses had been evacuated. They hadn't been, although even now we haven't heard any reports of any injuries, either from gunfire or from the flames in that neighborhood. And there's still a lot of questions being asked right now, and there aren't too many answers to go along with them. I asked Pete Hagan, spokesman for the Los Angeles Police Department, whether he'd ever seen anything like this in his life. I hadn't, no other reporters had. And I said, perhaps Watts, and he said, no, this is the worst thing that he'd ever seen.
Well, Christine, I have a question. The woman that described herself as a hostage that came out of the house,
right.
Was that the woman that answered the door?
That's what I've been thinking about. No, frankly, her skin was a darker black. I told you she was swollen almost unrecognizably from the tear gas, which had been lobbed in there time and time again. The air was filled with tear gas. It's possible it was the same woman, but I really don't think so.
Well, it all began about 10 minutes until 6 o'clock, about 5:50. That's when the actual firing began. What time were you there earlier?
We got there at 4 o'clock, so there was about an hour there to speculate what was going to happen. The streets were filled with people, sharpshooters. I had never seen anything like it.
Good to have you back safe, Christy.
Glad to be back.
Coming up next, Chuck Henry with a report on the fire that destroyed the house, and Henry Alfaro retraces several incidents of violence that seem to fit together and lead up to tonight's tragedy.
We're here to make you happy, we're out to prove it's true. On Continental Airlines, we move our tail for you. We really move our tail for you. To make your every wish come true. On Continental Airlines, we really move our tail for you.
Fly with us to Houston on Continental Airlines. We'll really move our tail for you. return of What's Up Doc, winner of the Grand Prix de Haha, condemned by the World Safety Council. Too much of a good thing is not enough. We can make it. If that good thing is What's Up Doc. I think we can make it. What's Up Doc, rated G.
Now showing for a limited engagement only. Check your local newspaper for a theater near you.
I always thought electric percolator coffees were the same. Not anymore. Now there's a brand new kind, a different kind. New Electric Perk blend from Max Packs. What's the difference? This new kind of Max Packs has a richer blend with more rich Colombian beans than the leading Electric Perk coffee. Blended to get the most out of your electric pot. At last. Electric Perk blend from Max Packs. Brand new. In the sunny yellow can.
As we said before, the Los Angeles police used a record amount of ammunition in that shootout today. Chuck Henry was there, and he has a report tonight on the large amount of firepower, along with some significant details about the house fire itself. Chuck?
Yes, John, we have that. Little did I know that within 20 minutes after the 5 o'clock newscast, I'd find myself right in the middle of that gunfire. Sparked by an almost constant volley of tear gas canisters from the police officers, that small yellow wood-framed home on 54th Street was quickly engulfed in flames, as you can see here. As my camera crew and I moved in for a closer angle, policemen on bullhorns could be heard calling for the suspects to give themselves up, but apparently it was too late. With the thick smell of tear gas choking our lungs, the special weapons team evacuated the adjoining homes, 2 of which caught fire and were gutted by this fire. As all of this was going on, ammunition was exploding in the burning home, with bullets ricocheting across the street and indeed across the block. Then, after perhaps, 20 minutes, it seems like much longer, the first of several fire units arrived onto the scene to the surprise of police officers. To say that the police officers were angered would be an understatement. You could hear them yelling there for the firemen to get out of the line of fire, but apparently the firemen never gave it a second thought, and with bullets flying all over the place, they went about their business. First watering down the main blaze and then trying to save 2 adjoining homes. All of this as officers armed with M16s stood by. Finally, exploding shells proved too much, and the firemen were forced to back off. When the fire was finally out, investigators then moved in. And this film, shot by cameraman Bill Whitman, as you can see, shows one officer picking up what looked like at first to be 2 grenades. And then we saw that he had what then appeared to be what remained of perhaps a rifle or a machine gun. Whatever it was a weapon used by those inside the home. Now, an interesting thing happened to me while covering that story, and I hate to think of the consequences, really. As I was huddled behind that fire truck, I was holding a film magazine, which we use just like this one, and soundman Gordon Willingham was behind me, and we could hear the bullets ricocheting, and I heard what sounded like a loud plink. It almost sounded, at first I thought it was a rock, apparently hit the magazine, and Gordon said, "Look out," and I looked down on my sleeve, and this is what I found. This is a shell. As you can see, it had ricocheted, a bullet had ricocheted off the film magazine and landed on my arm.
Did you say you felt your arm as well, and then later you detected that it was aching?
No, the arm didn't ache. The bullet was hot, but it landed on the sleeve of the coat here, and I quickly, hit it and knocked it on the ground. But that is an experience that I will not soon forget.
Wow. Unbelievable. Bob Banfield was also on the scene. His report concerns people not connected with the SLA, but nevertheless involved in the events of the night. Bob?
Yes, Judd, about 30 minutes before this whole thing got underway, there was almost a carnival-like atmosphere there because we didn't think that anything was going to come off. Police did a good job of keeping us away from that marked apartment on 54th Street, and it's well that they did. But then, it all ended with the first burst of gunfire. No announcement was needed to clear the streets. This is the Ethel Turpin family and her children. They were roused from their apartment directly across the street from the SLA hideout. They were confused. They were frightened.
I just had how can we get her in? Because see, she just had operation and she can't move around too far.
Okay, just stay down right now. I think it'll all be over in a minute now.
Oh, Lord.
You should be all right. You seem to be okay. Just keep right down.
Well, it wasn't over in a minute. It was over in about an hour later. The police at one point, when the fire was put out, thought they had a bomb. So everybody was rushed back, and it struck me as funny that just moments before it was every man for himself in a war, and a few seconds later the police action was pointed toward the citizens and media for their own protection. As a matter of fact, the LAPD did such a good job, they swept William Sullivan of the FBI right outside the police lines as I tried to interview him.
Okay.
Was there a hunt?
Talked to one lady who tried to be as helpful as she could. Didn't really want to commit herself, I don't think, when she had this to say.
On the porch the first part of the morning. And then they went inside, but one of them came around here to go to the little market there.
What did they look like?
I don't know.
Were they white? Were they black?
They weren't white.
Interesting comment. They weren't white. But the lady didn't see all of the people in that small house. There were a great many people in south central Los Angeles, in the small homes and the apartments around there, who just got to their homes to safety. Most of them, they told me, laid down on the floor to wait the whole thing out. Then they come out to see what was left. Shooting, Judd, is not foreign to that particular area of the city, I'm sorry to say, nor are large groups of policemen, but it really is amazing that none of the innocent people were killed.
This is a day that the reporters here at Eyewitness News aren't likely to forget. What an experience.
That's for sure.
The 24 hours leading up to tonight's shootout almost defy belief and read like a scenario. From 5 o'clock last evening, it seemed the suspected SLA members were almost constantly on the move, traveling from one part of town to another, from Inglewood to Linwood, from Hawthorne to Hollywood Hills. Henry Alfaro, who's been on the story since early morning, is going to retrace the past 24 hours. Henry?
Well, Judd, up until about 5 o'clock last night, the Symbionese Liberation Army was believed to be in Northern California. But suddenly, the picture changed. It began yesterday afternoon at Mel's Sporting Goods store in Inglewood. There, the attempted theft of a pair of socks turned into a shooting spree, which left the store riddled with automatic weapon fire. But fortunately, no one was hurt. A clerk had challenged the theft by a man and woman. The man pulled a gun, which he lost during the ensuing scuffle. At that point, a woman waiting for the pair in a parked van across the street opened fire, strafing the storefront. The pair escaped. Later, they abandoned the van and at gunpoint commandeered 2 cars in succession, telling the owner of one they belonged to the SLA. All 3 vehicles were found by police. At 7 o'clock, the story moved to nearby Linwood. There, 18-year-old Tom Matthews took a young woman, a stranger, for a test ride in a van he had for sale in front of his house. With that move, young Matthews became a kidnapped victim because the woman's companion was waiting for him. A Linwood police lieutenant picks up the story from that point.
They forced the young man to get into the back of the van, and they covered him with a blanket. The male and the female that were picked up got into the back of the van also. From that point in time, they began to drive. The victim doesn't know which direction they took or how far they traveled. He did learn from conversation that took place in the van between the parties that they needed a hacksaw because the man had a handcuff on him and they had to get the hacksaw removed, to remove the handcuff. They obtained a hacksaw, and they believe the hacksaw was obtained in a Zodi store because the young man in the back of the van saw a Zodi sack nearby him, nearby where he was lying. After getting the hacksaw, they went to a drive-in movie. Information leads us to believe that the drive-in movie that they went to was in the city of Inglewood. They stayed in the drive-in movie until sometime around 1 a.m. They continued to drive in an area that's unknown to the victim. They made a couple of stops. They stopped at some residence, and they did make a contact with whoever they were trying to contact. They continued to drive. They eventually wound up in the hills of Hollywood, somewhere near Mulholland Drive. This seems to be about 6:30 this morning. They had guns in the van. They wrapped the guns. They had 2 long rifles and 2 pistols, according to the victim. They wrapped those guns in the blanket that had been covering the young man whose van they were in. They got out, didn't say anything to him, left him there, and they disappeared.
At almost the same time, a virtual army of FBI agents and police officers were preparing to storm a small house in South Los Angeles, where they believed the SLA members to be holed up. The suspense lasted until after 9 o'clock, when a barrage of tear gas canisters were pumped into the house. But the house proved to be unoccupied. The suspects had left hurriedly, leaving behind them clothes, wigs, food, and ammunition. Continued surveillance of the area turned up 2 other vans suspected of belonging to the SLA, and in turn resulted in tonight's showdown on 54th Street. John?
All right, Henry, thank you very much. We've just checked with the county coroner's office, and here's the latest on the identification of the 5 persons killed tonight. The bodies are believed to be 3 men and 2 women, but all 5 bodies were so badly charred that the sex of the victims has not been definitely determined. The bodies are en route now from the shootout scene to the coroner's office in downtown Los Angeles, and a spokesman for the coroner's office says no further tests of any significance will be conducted tonight, which tends to confirm our earlier report that there will be no positive identification on these victims until 24 hours has passed. Despite tonight's spectacular and, of course, deadly shootout in south central Los Angeles, all the questions about kidnapped Patricia Hearst, and for that matter the Symbionese Liberation Army, remain unanswered. We do not know with any certainty the whereabouts of Patty Hearst. We do not know the identity of the 5 dead suspects in that burned-out house. We don't know the whereabouts of the rest of the SLA membership, last rumored to be fanning out from San Francisco. In other words, the SLA even now is still shrouded in mystery, much the same mystery that surrounded it late last year when the SLA first came to public attention by taking credit for the assassination of the Oakland schools chief, Dr. Marcus Foster. And you ask about the Hearst family in Hillsborough. Tonight, the head of the FBI in San Francisco, Charles Bates, made a trip out to the Hearst home. We don't know what he had to say. Coming up next on Eyewitness News, bombs explode throughout Dublin, Ireland, and the Middle East is tottering on the brink once again.
I'm so hungry I could eat my typewriter. Why am I always hungrier the day before payday than I am the day after payday? There's got to be someplace we can go that doesn't cost an arm or a leg. Or both. We deserve a break. That's it. What? Da 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 da.
At McDonald's, you can still get a cheeseburger, an order of fries, and Coca-Cola for less than $1.
You deserve a break today at McDonald's.
Everyone advertises steel-belted tires. So by now you probably know that steel tires offer superb traction and puncture resistance. And until now, you've had to pay top buck for steel. Until Grappler 2. Montgomery Ward's Grappler 2 hands you the performance of steel at an incredible 30% off regular price. That's right, 30% off the steel-belted Grappler 2. At Ward's Automotive Center, we've got it all.
What do you think of the richer flavor we put into new Purina dog chow?
The new richer flavor, superb.
Wunderbar. Tastes better than the old dog chow.
Tastes great. What does it look like? Lots of flavor for a wee bit of money. This is dog food's finest hour.
It makes me very happy.
The new taste is muy bueno.
Dogs love it because each nugget is basted with richer flavor. Introducing new, richer-tasting dog chow.
Yugoslavia, and what travelers say about the American Express card.
The American Express card is a passport to travel.
I really feel extremely safe with it in a strange country.
The American Express card is an international currency, as far as I'm concerned.
But the American Express card is like having a parachute to bail you out of trouble.
The American Express is the finest card, I believe, on the market.
Call 800-528-8000 to apply for an American Express card.
A bombed section of downtown Dublin, Ireland has been declared a major disaster area tonight after 3 powerful bombs exploded without warning during the afternoon rush hour. Police say at least 25 people were killed in the terrorist attack. Another 100 were injured, and perhaps 80 of those were seriously hurt. The day of horror is the worst in the 5 years of fighting in Ireland. There was panic in the streets in Dublin. Eyewitnesses who saw all of these tragic events unfold were horrified.
Over here, there's a man lying. His 2 legs were mutilated. His side of his head was literally cut off. There was a young baby. She was like a rag doll. She was all torn to pieces. There was a man in a car up there. He was literally riddled with scattering glass.
Prime Minister Liam Cosgrove addressed the nation tonight on television, and he called the bombings unforgivable acts. Both the Irish Republican Army and the Ulster Defence League say they had nothing to do with the explosions. On the other side of the world, North Vietnamese troops are within 26 miles of Saigon tonight. The communists overran a militia base on the outskirts of the capital. It is the closest an armored attack has come to Saigon. The North Vietnamese drive forced 250 government militiamen from their camp in the district known as Ben Cat. Judd?
John, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger is back in Israel tonight, preparing for one last effort to achieve a workable compromise on military disengagement between Israel and Syria. Until today, Kissinger had been relaying peace proposals from one side to the other, but it now appears he is making his own proposals to the warring parties. Kissinger will return to Washington after the weekend, having made final visits to Damascus and Cairo. Lebanon has filed a complaint with the United Nations tonight over Israel's retaliatory air attacks aimed at Palestinian guerrillas targets in southern Lebanon. Deliberate attacks on innocent Palestinian refugees. That's the Lebanese charge against Israel. Earlier today, Israeli air and ground forces launched a second day of attacks against Arab guerrilla bases in retaliation for the Mahalat massacre. 7 locations in southern Lebanon have been hit in 2 days. The death toll so far is over 50 and still climbing. One refugee camp was virtually obliterated. A low-cost housing development near another refugee camp was almost totally destroyed. While the search for dead and wounded goes on, appeals for blood donors are continually broadcast. Tonight in Lebanon, further Israeli reprisal raids are expected. And Israel is reported on military alert for a possible reprisal attack from Lebanon. And the beat goes on, John.
Angry words today, Judd, from Ron Ziegler, the president's chief spokesman. He says America is getting a distorted view of the House impeachment inquiry because of leaks from the committee's closed hearings. And Ziegler says the leaks are a deliberate attempt to mislead the country. And for this reason, Ron Ziegler, speaking for the president and the White House, of course, wants the hearings made public now. The committee's present plan calls for several more weeks of closed-door sessions. There is no explanation tonight for a freak train accident near Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The last 4 cars of the Southern Railway's Crescent passenger train tumbled down a 75-foot embankment, yanking the front 6 cars off the track as well. 133 of the 168 persons aboard were injured, but miraculously, nobody was seriously hurt. Police in Torrance are saying tonight it was a miracle that nobody was killed when a truck lost its brakes on a steep hill today. The truck and flatbed trailer rolled 3/4 of a mile down Hawthorne Boulevard to Villa del Monte and hit a building, 2 other trucks, and 2 cars. 1 truck driver and a passenger were hurt, but not seriously. The driver of the runaway truck was shaken up. His cargo, an asphalt spreader, flew off the truck and smashed into a utility pole. Torrance police say there might have been a major tragedy if the truck had gone another block to Newton Avenue, which is a much busier intersection. Judd?
John, kind of a confusing story here. Listen closely. And it's from the Randolph-Hearst home in Hillsborough, California. The family is waiting still for the arrival of the senior FBI agent in San Francisco, Charles Bates, to arrive at the house. The family's housekeeper told a newsman at our sister station KGO that the mood of the family is one of tears and tension, and they fear the worst about Patty Hearst tonight. The family has not been told anything either way, and they've been watching TV coverage of the day's events here in Los Angeles. And we've just received word that Stephen Weed, the fiancé of Patricia Hearst, has arrived in Los Angeles. Weed reportedly is planning to meet with FBI officials, apparently to see if he can find out anything about Patty's whereabouts. Recapping today's startling shootout developments, the Los Angeles Police Department has blown a South Central SLA hideout to smithereens with automatic weapons, with fire, attacking in waves of armed expert riflemen. 5 apparent SLA members inside the house are dead. There was no way any living thing could have survived such bombardment. Late tonight, the bodies were taken to the coroner's office where they await positive identification. There is speculation that Donald DeFries, known as Sin Q, the SLA's leader, was among the dead. Later, a spokesman for Randolph-Hearst told newsmen the newspaper publisher had been advised of the possibility DeFries was killed. Newsmen asked, of course, what about Patty? The spokesman walked back into the Hearst home without saying another word. John?
Judd, we don't know who those people killed tonight were, not yet at least, but one thing appears pretty certain: whoever they were intent on killing a lot of people if it meant that they were to be killed. It was, as our reporters tonight told us, and as just about everybody else who was there did, it was like a war, an amazing counterattack waged by 5 people, 2 of whom were women. And it was the professed threat of the Symbionese Liberation Army that if there was to be a shootout, it would be bloody. For those 5 who were shot to death, blown apart, or burned beyond recognition, their prophecy, though accurate, turned out to be almost a parody. That so heavily an armed group, so bold and so determined, should have their revolutionary program disintegrate because somebody wanted to steal a pair of socks. But in another age, for want of a nail, a shoe was lost. That's part of the irony of life, I guess. That's the news. Stay tuned for ABC's Wide World of Entertainment tonight. Elton John in concert. Now for Judd, Stu, Dr. George, and the entire Eyewitness News team, I'm John Schuback. Thanks for watching. Good night, and have a good weekend.
I am here to tell you about a great little car. A little car with 6-cylinder economy. A little car with plenty of room. A little car with lots of style. This great little car is sold and serviced all over America. This great little car isn't British or German or Swedish. This great little car is a Pontiac. Pontiac Ventura.
Get a money-saving deal from your Los Angeles, Orange County area Pontiac dealer today.
This is Howard Weimer, professional window cleaner.
I'm going to demonstrate that new Easy Off window cleaner, now with more power cleaners than before, will give you professional results at home. Easy Off window cleaner cuts through weeks of soot and grime. They're just no match for Easy Off, with more power cleaners to cut even tough grease without streaking. Get new Easy Off window cleaner with more power cleaners for professional results at home.
What's Joe Namath really like? Well, he can be tough sometimes. Like the day I bought him the wrong antiperspirant, and he said, "Don't you know that I use Brute 33 antiperspirant? It keeps me dry like the others, and it smells like Brute." I said, okay, but where do I get this Brute 33? And he said, supermarkets, drugstore, same as the others. So I got some. And Joe got real sweet.
Brute 33 antiperspirant, the only one with a great smell of Brute. Regular and light powder.
Paul Newman stars, 11:30 tomorrow night.